take off the wheel. This is a big advantage if you have one.
Take off the caliper.
You stick a tiny pry bar or like a really good screwdriver, like not a really good one, but a really beat up one in here. If you can hook the edge of the caliper piston, you can press it in and give it some slack.
What's that?
I'm talking to the camera, sweetie. You pull it, and this can be tough to get off. You want it partly retracted when you take it off. I'm going to hang this, hang that up there because you need to move stuff around here. We got to take off the caliper bracket. Sometimes there is no substitute for that big breaker bar. I remember now, I lost one of the bolts that goes to the caliper bracket, so I had to go get one at the hardware store. It had a different size head. The rotor has to come off. You can see these nuts right here all have to be done with a wrench. They can't be done with a ratchet because there's not enough room. There's no ratchet that fits in there. Okay, that's how that works. Rotor. Try not to get too much grease and oil on it. I just set it here. That'll probably be fine. The sensor's got to come out because the bearing's got to come off. You need the spacer, sir or ma'am. You need it. Do not fool yourself. If you lose those spacers, you'll wreck your sensor. And then you'll need a sensor, which is $100 and something. Take out this cotter pin. Alright, whoops. Now it's dirty. Oh, by the way, YouTube, a really smart thing to do is to have some mechanics that you know that you can call and talk to about what to do, because they'll save you a lot of time with some good advice. So I'm going to call a friend and ask him if he knows a way that I can check this joint without taking the bearing off, because taking the bearing and the knuckle off is a lot of trouble, and it's physical and it scrapes you up and it's just a ton of work. So I'm going to call my friend, he's a professional mechanic shop, okay? These are guys that I go to if I can't do the job myself, and they know that, and they give me good advice, okay? That's all. I'm going to have to come in and pay you a fee for all the time you spent on the phone with me, man. I talk to you more than I hire you, you know? Alright, well, I'll talk to you later. Thank you. Alright, bye. Alright, YouTube, now I talked to a mechanic and he said I don't need it. He said to check it and do this test, and he said basically move the wheel and check the cross for wiggle. So I'm going to show you what the cross looks like. and then I'm going to put this back together. So, okay, so that's the cross right there. So that's the U-joint right in the middle here, where my finger is touching that. That's the whole joint, and there's the cap. So as you spin this, if yeah, it's not usually loose on the cap. It's usually loose. Whoops. It's not usually loose on the cap. Usually it's loose right in the middle, and you can see, like, you can't see diddly squat, but on yours you can. So in here is where it would be loose, and there's a needle bearing inside that cap that connects to the inner part of the joint, and that's what allows it to rotate. So all 4 of these have a needle bearing in them. And if it's crushed to powder or whatever, or damaged, or the seal, the seal's damaged, you'll usually notice. But I'm wiggling this like that, back and forth, and I've checked each of these heads, and none of them is showing any wiggle whatsoever, nor is it making a noise. So I'm going to show you basically how I would do this if I was going to do it, and then and you can do it if you want. So you have to take that nut off, and then you know what? I'm about to eat my words. Let's see here. Yeah, that nut holds the bearing to the axle, okay? Now, there's 4 bolts here. Camera's not making it easy for me. Okay, there's one of the bolts. There's one of the bolts. And then there's 2 more. There's one there, and then one on the other side. It's a square. And what you have to do is you take off the tie rod. It allows you to steer to the full extreme left and right with this thing. And you steer to full extreme, and you take out these bolts right here. Let's see. Yeah, so there's the bolt right there. So there's one of them, and they all look like that. I can't show you all of them. But you're basically going to need a hex and an extra long breaker bar like that one right there. Or if you have one of these super duper impacts, or you know, the air impact is pretty powerful if you get a good one. But you're going to take those. Yeah, you're going to take those 4 out, and then what you do is you leave them partly into the threads. Okay, you only unscrew them like 4 turns or something, and then you actually tap on it with a hammer. And if you can't get that, you'll have to be creative and come up with a way to make the bearing come out, because separating this part of the bearing from that is extremely, from the knuckle, is very, very, very difficult. Okay, so just so you know, but I'm pretty sure once you remove the bearing, you can pull this axle out, okay? You'll need a big nut to get that. I think it's like either a 33 or a 36 or something. It's freaking giant, okay? So, and your truck probably wouldn't be the same as mine. I don't know, but, yeah, so I don't think you have to remove the whole knuckle. No, because you can see where that ring goes through the hole, basically. There's a hole in the bearing big enough to, or not in the bearing, but in the knuckle, big enough to pull that back of the axle out, and the joints will just barely fit through that hole, just barely, okay? And if I'm wrong, I'll have to eat my words. And if I am wrong, then what you'd have to do is take the nut off the bottom ball joint and the nut off this upper ball joint, and then that thing will just drop down, and then you'd get full access. But I think you can pull the shaft through, the U-joints through that. So, well, YouTube, sorry I didn't give you the full tutorial, but hopefully that's helpful to you. And obviously, the U-joint process is a whole nother thing entirely. So, good luck to you.